So apparently the Pentagon and the military are using AI more and more. And this is in the Wall Street Journal today. Pentagon used Anthropic's Claude in Maduro, Venezuela raid. Wow. And it seems like to me they really want to build Skynet. You know that Elon Musk is looking at this stuff going, oh, I want those government contracts, right? And the thing is, some of these companies don't want to be involved in this stuff. Some, like Elon Musk, want to be involved as much as possible. And I want to go over sort of what is the implications of the AI and jobs and culture, as there's a lot of things coming out today. It says use of the model through a contract with Palantir highlights growing role of AI in the Pentagon. All right. So what are you using this thing for? So we're talking about Palantir is one company, Anthropic's another, and then you got OpenAI, and then Elon Musk is peering in from the outside. He's not even in this conversation at the moment, but he's trying to get in. Anthropic's artificial intelligence tool Claude was used in the U.S. military's operation to capture former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, highlighting how AI models are gaining traction in the Pentagon. Okay, here's a quote. We cannot comment on whether Claude or any other AI model was used for any specific operation, classified or otherwise, so no comment. They say any use of Claude, whether in private sector or across government, is required to comply with our usage policies, which govern how Claude can be deployed. We work closely with our partners to ensure compliance. Basically, Claude doesn't want it to be used for certain kinds of things. In particular, this is in their uses guidelines. It says Anthropic's uses guidelines prohibit Claude from being used to facilitate violence, develop weapons, or conduct surveillance. And I think other things they don't want to be in there is like fully autonomous weapons, that kind of stuff. And you know that people like Elon Musk, they don't have any guardrails. That's why when you look at the stories of, say, Musk, who's like, hey, you know what, undress whoever you like, adults, children, whatever, use my grok. Not every company is necessarily on board with that. So Anthropic clearly is not. And then they're saying, we don't know how you're using this thing. Palantir is probably more in the Elon Musk camp. OpenAI, they have actually, someone just quit there saying that they don't necessarily follow any particular moral guidance. This is in the New York Times, it was an opinion piece. It said OpenAI is making mistakes. Facebook may I quit. We covered this in a prior video. You can check out my video. But now the writer of the essay is sharing her thoughts on BBC. Have a watch.
Very basic point that made me start to feel really nervous about working in the industry is that there is a new type of interaction, a new type of social interaction, you might be able to call it, that we simply do not understand. And we do not have a grasp of what it does to people's psychology, what it does to them sociologically. And I want to understand what exactly are the effects of these new kinds of tools and these new kinds of interactions before we continue to sort of make business models that rely on encouraging these interactions.
Yeah, because every social media firm wants to maximize engagement. If my engagement is sharing my deepest secrets, my health complaints, my wishes, my loneliness, if adverts come in at that point, you're monetizing my humanity.
Absolutely. And, a point that I want to really reinforce is not necessarily that there are terrible things happening now. I don't think that there is yet in a major abuse of this kind of data. What I'm really concerned about is where this goes and what happens next. And the fact that, creating an economic engine that profits from encouraging these kinds of new relationships before we understand them is really dangerous. So I'm worried about what happens next, ultimately.
And really what she's talking about, she mentions it in her opinion piece, is the AI companies, in particular, she was at OpenAI, want you to be addicted to their service, right? And then she's really concerned about the future, which then ties into what we're talking about, where Pentagon, you're using AI, what are you using it for? And every company's going to have different guardrails. Every company's going to be different in like how they think about profits. Is it more important than people or not?
If you are a young person who is having a hard time finding a job, or you are an older millennial or Gen Xer who has lost their job. You were a middle manager. You were a customer support rep. You were an SDR, sales development rep, and you've lost your job. You will have a new job within 30 days, if you spend the next 10 days obsessing over OpenClaw and setting up an instance, go back to whoever laid you off and say, I know you laid me off. Here's OpenClaw. Here's my old job. Here's how I've automated it. Let me take you through it step by step. I want to come back and I would like a 20% raise. I was making $150 working at Amazon. I now would like to make $180,000. And if you hire me back, I can do more automations just like this one. And if you don't, that's fine. I've got 4 other job offers. And if you're coming out of school and you can't find a job, and it doesn't matter what degree you have, if you dropped out of school, just set up OpenClaw, authenticate it with a bunch of bogus accounts, and then look at any other business you can think of where you've been exposed to and make new products and services. And then just email the CEO and say, I do OpenClaw. Here's what I've built. I think I could make everybody in your organization 10% more effective every month. If that person emailed me right now, I would hire them on the spot. Instead, I've got 3 people in the organization out of 20, maybe 4, who have embraced this and know how to use it. They are in week 2, Alex Finn. Those people are now 7 times, 10 times more valuable to me. 7 to 10 times more valuable in week 2.
So clearly these are AI hypers, pumpers, etc. And they're basically saying, hey guys, don't worry about your jobs if you get fired. Just tell the companies that you're going to help them push automation along and replace more people. Oh, wow, you're so valuable to me because you replace more people. That's sort of what we're going at. And there's a lot of questions as we're, have to wrestle with the future of AI. This is a professor at MIT.
Your job has many, many pieces to it. Some of them are what you're essentially really good at. You're a great researcher, you're a fantastic interviewer, reporter. And then there's lots of other parts of your job that are kind of, necessary but not really important or essential.
Otter says the key lies in what tasks within a job are being automated. Are they high expertise or low? For lawyers, if AI takes over the relatively low expertise job of drafting routine contracts, it may mean that you need fewer lawyers. But those that are left get paid more because the high expertise part of what they do is even more valuable.
There'll be fewer people doing.
I think what they're talking about here, and this is over on Bloomberg, I think probably this is a likely scenario. We've heard about this stuff before. Now, are you guaranteed to get paid more? Not necessarily, but I do know that's the plan of many companies is essentially fire people, automate stuff, give the person who's left more work. Maybe you get paid more, maybe. It depends on, where you are in the scale. Certainly the CEOs are going to try to get paid more. So I would, think in that realm, yes. But, will your middle manager get paid more or will the middle manager exist anymore? But this is sort of what we're talking about is eliminating a lot of, lower jobs that can be automated. And one of the big problems is that people coming out of college right now are having a tough time finding something. And so then we're destroying our pipeline, which is a really big concern.
Doing it. Those who remain will be very specialized, right? The language translators who remain working, they will be doing diplomatic documents, legal documents. As technology encroaches, the work that remains will be more specialized, higher paid, but there'll be less of it.
On the other side of the coin, what happens when the high expertise tasks get automated? The barriers to entry fall. Employment goes up, wages go down. Picture drivers and ride-sharing apps.
Think of how ride-hailing software changed the taxi driving industry, right? So taxi driving historically had 2 components to it. One was driving a car, which is something most people can do. And the other was knowing your way around, which is something most people did not do, could not have. I certainly don't know my way around anywhere, even wherever I've lived. And ride-hailing, sure, it introduces this interface for calling cars and so on, but it also integrated GPS. Suddenly, to be a taxi or chauffeur driver, you don't need to know your way around, right? You can go to any city that you don't live in and drive Uber immediately because the phone tells you what to do. So this created all kinds of new competition. It commodified the expertise of knowing your way around the place. I think the evidence suggests that it lowered wages of people in the taxi driving industry. Incumbents did not like it, and understandably so.
So there's 2 scenarios then that they're laying out. One would be less jobs. The people who have jobs are going to get paid more. Then the other scenario would be if, say, the barrier to entry is lower, like anyone can do the job. You just follow the instructions of the computer effectively, right? The AI, the Uber app, whatever. And that's the Uber example. But just, for example, let's say any number of jobs, you just follow the instructions. Then the barrier to entry is lower, and then anyone can do it, and then wage goes down theoretically is how I read that. I don't think either scenario is great, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to use this technology. We're just identifying like how this is going to work. The Anthropic CEO then is going to come out and talk about the centaur chess thing. Let's have a listen to this.
And what we're going to see is, first, the model only does a piece of what the human software engineer does, and that increases their productivity. Then even when the models do everything that human software engineers used to do, the human software engineers kind of take a step up and, kind of they act as managers and supervise the systems. And so
this is where the term centaur
yes,
is used, right?
Yes.
To describe essentially like man and horse fused AI and engineer working together.
Yeah,
right?
This is like centaur chess. So after I think Garry Kasparov was beaten by Deep Blue, there was an era that I think for chess was 15 or 20 years long where a human checking the output of the AI playing chess was able to defeat any human or any AI system alone. That era at some point ended.
And then it's just
recently, and
just
then
the
it's
AI.
just the machine.
Yep.
And so my worry, of course, is about that last phase. So I think we're already in our centaur phase for software. And I think during that centaur phase, if anything, the demand for software engineers may go up, but the period may be very brief. And so, I have this concern for entry-level white-collar work, for software engineering work. It's just going to be a big disruption. I think my worry is just that it's all happening so fast, right? People talk about previous disruptions, right?
And when you listen to this stuff, I want to hear from people in software or other companies or industries where you are using your AI quite a lot. It depends on which industry that you're in. But basically, to understand it simply, when they're talking about the centaur phase, they're saying basically a person who teams up with the AI/robot/chatbot will outperform a human, right? But when does the point come to where you don't even need the human element anymore and you just have all robots? And that's certainly the concern. And then you look at all the different applications that this could be used for. I think, like, just for example, the fully autonomous, military drones, there's a big problem with that. And so in my opinion, those should be banned. We don't want that. We don't want Skynet and Terminator. I don't think that's, hard to see the negatives of that kind of thing. And this is why you want guardrails, and this is also why you don't want people like Elon Musk in charge of this stuff, because he just thinks about the bottom line and like, guys, we're going to, do all these amazing things if we just let the robots think and let the robots do all the work for us while we lay on the couch, and just think about kind of how we get to that dystopian future.
I don't know how many of your viewers have seen the movie WALL-E. WALL-E's a future where robots are doing all the work and people just float around, in kind of hovering armchairs. They weigh 300 pounds. They watch holographic TV and drink big gulps, right? They're just sloths sitting in lounge chairs.
And that's kind of like the Elon Musk and the Elon Musk fanboys' dream, right? The WALL-E. And if you guys saw the movie, you'll know what we're talking about here. Just basically to sit around and drink gulpies, Slurpees, and watch TV, and while the robots do everything.
It looks horrible, but whenever I watch the movie, I think, well, that's the good scenario. That's the scenario where they've actually figured out the income distribution problem, and then they just sit around doing nothing. It doesn't look fun, but at least they're not at war with one another. However, I don't think that's the likely scenario. I think in a world in which all the resources were generated by machinery, and only a few people own that, they're the owners of the AI companies, whatever, we would have a very unequal and very fractious society. And that's how most of human history has been. So this is not just a dystopian fantasy. So I think we want to preserve the labor market because we want to preserve democracy. We don't have really great alternative models of this at present. And so that's another reason to want to use this AI opportunity well. And it is a huge opportunity. It gives us the ability to make progress on climate, on nutrition, on education, on healthcare, on ending world poverty and dealing with disease, right? We have so many huge technological and social challenges that we can make faster progress on with better tools. So there's huge upside, but there's real risk.
I appreciate his take and thoughts on this because it is a very real concern, right? As the way he's going, and he's probably correct, Elon Musk then's goal is to control everything, and he has all the control of the AI robots. He'll try to get all those contracts, and then regular people will be out of a job. And Elon will be like, well, but guys, we're going to have fully autonomous cars and airplanes and blah, 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 right? And when you look at the Trump policy, and I've mentioned this several times, if you follow my channel, you'll know we've been talking about this for a long time. Their goal then is to basically be anti-human, get rid of workers. So then when you get rid of workers, there's a need for someone to replace them, and Elon will come in and, hey, I got my robots that don't work, right? And it's a total disaster. So how does this fit in? This is the news today. ICE plans to spend $38.3 billion turning warehouses into detention centers. So basically it's an anti-human kind of stuff. That's the easiest way to think about it, right? Get rid of all the humans that you possibly can, replace it with Elon's robots and AIs. And this warehousing, I'll just be frank, it sounds pretty ugly. ICE plans to buy and convert 16 buildings across the country to serve as regional processing centers, each holding 1,000 to 1,500 immigrant detainees at a time. Another 8 large-scale detention centers will hold 7,000 to 10,000 detainees at a time. And these are primary locations, what they would call them. Again, they want to convert warehouses to detention centers. It's ugly out there. This is what it is. And I just want to give you a full spectrum on the AI stuff. We got to keep track of this stuff because the way that it is at the moment, most people who are talking about it are like, you know, your tech CEOs, your Elons. Oh my God, AI is going to be fantastic and great, and we're all going to be rich. But I'll go with Professor on this one, and and also go with history on this one. You know, chances are it's not going to be like utopian society where everyone, you know, is laying on the couch drinking Slurpees. I don't think it's going to be like that. It's going to be Elon Musk at the top, and that's why you have to call this stuff out. So that's my thoughts on this. I want to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.